incredible supporters and true American patriots.
Woo!
The love in this room is absolute proof that this is not just a campaign. This is a movement.
Yes! Woo!
When we win next November, it will be an epic political earthquake, the likes of which the world has seen. I want to thank Trump President Larry Snowden. What a great job. As well as Treasurer, of course, she leaves. She's right over there.
Sign up.
Thank you. Sue Snowden, Vice President Linda Stock.
Yeah!
Congressman Matt Gaetz. Great gentleman, also a friend of mine, Palm Beach County Commissioner Michael Barnett.
Yeah!
Florida State Representative Rick Roth. Thank you, Rick. Along with so many amazing influencers and patriots, including Bruce Lavelle. Where's Bruce? Oh, Bruce, I love him. He just said we're going to get 44% of the African
When he's talking about
American.
people they appreciate. Okay.
Yes.
You know what you think?
Yeah.
Siggy Flicker, where is Siggy? Good husband, by the way. Good job, thank you. What do you think about Sarah Carter. Sarah, thank you. Sarah. Thank you very much. A friend of mine for a long time, he's been with us, I think, from the very first day in 2015, actually, before the win, Terrence Williams. Thank you, Terrence. Great. Nice hat, Terrence. That's the new hat. That's it. Roseanne Barr, with the
Beginning.
She had the #1 show on television.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, they just couldn't stand it. They couldn't stand it, but everybody knows that that show was a monster. 28 million people, she doubled and tripled, and they took heat. You know, they had 3 million, they'd be happy if it was the right person, but you are the right person. You're fantastic. That was a great, great show. I appreciate it. Thank you. Another great friend, Gina Loudon, Dr. Gina Loudon. Right from the beginning, right, Gina? I think Gina, right from the beginning. Somebody who's extremely shy, but really talented, and she's going places, Laura Lomer.
Yeah.
She doesn't like to say this. Two very, very special people to me, and they should be. Eric and Laura Trump. You know, Laura just did a country single, and it's one of the top songs in the country. That's pretty good. It was fantastic. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. From New Hampshire, there's nobody better with the vets than this man. He's been, again, I would say, right from the beginning, before I even announced, he's just a fantastic guy. Al Baldessaro. Al, how are you? Great guy. He's so good at the vets. I love him. The Born to Ride 45 Motorcycle Club at the
Woo! Yeah. Fondo you. Fondo you. Woo! motorcycle here.
With the cyclers, they like Trump. I don't know what happened. They were just going on the motorcycles.
Stand up. Stand up.
You riding it. We're with them all the way. They came to the White House. We had 600,000 come to the White House.
Woo!
Great chick. Also known as Elizabeth from TikTok.
Woo! Be quiet.
Thank you very much. We had a lot of fun at Mar-a-Lago. And another one who's incredible. These are influencers, and they really are. They've got a lot of power. Rogan O'Handley. DC Binhvo. You know DC? I love DC. Rogan, thank you very much. Thank you, Rogan. And so many other people. Nancy, thank you for being here. Thank you very much for being here. You've been a supporter right from the beginning. I appreciate it. And Lindsay, thank you very much. Great lawyer, great attorney. Good job for us. Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. We have so many people out there. We got to start talking about what the hell we can do about our country, right? We got a lot of problems. We had no problems, and now we have a lot of problems. To think how low we've gone, I also will thank, and before because we can never forget these people, the outstanding volunteer supporters, including Melinda Kaiser, Diane Evans, and Jeff Nicky Hughes, who are former New York Democrats turned Trump supporters. We have a lot of them. We're strong Democrats. We have a man who's 103 years old. He's the oldest
Right now.
veteran of World War II. I looked at him.
Right now, if we standing up, we say we love Trump. Don't say Binhvo-Ngoctrang, but we love Trump. We love Trump. We love Trump. Don't say Binhvo-Ngoctrang anymore, but we love Trump. So
Everybody will do it. Oh.
yeah.
Why is everybody else
So just say we love Trump.
With the help of everyone here tonight, 96 days from now, we're going to win the Iowa caucus. We're by the way, right about 38 votes. Then we're going to win the New Hampshire primary, where we're up 51 points on the sanctimonious and the whole group. These people, you know, the debates is here goes Fox. The debates were the lowest rated debate ever in the history. Because everyone knows what the result is going to be. I don't want to say
That's right.
Because you never really know, do you? But they had the lowest rated debate in history. We're very proud of that. Meantime, we were working with the organizations. We were doing rallies all over the place. And the level of support that we have, we've never seen anything like it. Bigger than 2016, bigger than 2020. I think we can say that, right? Yeah, we can say it. Bigger than 2016. I've never seen anything like it because they see how grossly incompetent these people are in the north of the country. They're running it into the ground. We're not going to have a country pretty soon the way they're going. But we're going to win the South, and we're going to win South Carolina. We start that, that'll be next. And we're way up there. We have a former governor, Bergeron. We have, remember, I will not ever run against some president. He was the greatest president of our lifetime. I will not run. That was Nicky. I will not run against him. 3 months later, I've decided to run. And Tim, who's a good guy, Tim Scott, sorry. And yet, despite that, we're up 54 points. Can you imagine that? 54.
Woo!
He was supportive of me right from the beginning. In fact, I thought Nicky would be, and I got the best. I got a man who's been a fantastic governor of South Carolina, Henry. We're going to win a lot of other things in a lot of other states, and then we come down to Florida where we're leaving.
Yeah!
You know, when you get somebody elected, you don't run. You know, you just say, no, I'll wait for another 4 years, I'll wait. And it's a thing called loyalty, and all of my people backstage, they said, sir, nobody cares about loyalty and loyalty in politics. I said, I think they do. And he came to me, Ron, he came to me, sir, he was at 3%, think of it, 3%, and the Secretary of Agriculture, Adam Putnam, nice guy, but I didn't know him, he was at 44%. Other than that, it was a very close race. Adam Putnam had $32 million, Ron had 32 cents, he had nothing. I said, Ron, if I was George Washington or Abraham Lincoln and I came back from the dead, and I combined, I couldn't get you elected, you're finished. It's not working. 3%. He said, sir, you're very popular in Florida. If you endorse me, I think I can win. And I didn't know Adam Putnam, so I said, what the hell? Let's just do it. I took a little flyer, and I endorsed him. He went up 71 points in one day, and then he won the primary, and then I held rallies because the hottest politician in the country happened to be, as you know, he turned out to be a crackhead, but these are minor details. He was the hottest in the whole country. It was Stacey Abrams, female, and this young gentleman. And Ron said, I won't be able to beat him. I said, you will, because we'll do rallies. We'll do a couple of rallies for you. We did. We had unbelievable crowds turn out. I said, you're going to win? He said, I don't think so. He won. He won. Then 4 years later, they said, will you run against the president? And he said, I have no comment. I said, no comment? You know what that means, Sue and Larry? That means yes. So we hit him very hard. People said, please don't hit him, sir. He's a Republican. I said, I don't care if he's a Republican. And he didn't have a lot of political skill, to put it mildly. And now he's falling, like I said the other day, falling like a very badly injured bird from the sky. And in one state, he's actually in 5th place. He's in 5th place. This has not been a good situation. I think he blew it in 4 years. You never know what's going to happen, but in 28, I don't see it happen.
No way.
But I can never forget, because it's great disloyalty. I have others that grew up disloyal. Most are great. But we have some other people. One happens to be a governor of another state, not too far away. And, you get these guys elected, and they say, I'll run against them. And we don't like that. I don't think the room here likes that, do they?
No.
No.
He started off a lot. He was losing by a lot. And, we got more votes, by 1.2 million votes than he did. I don't know. Nobody ever talks about that. We got, in fact, Gina, you mentioned it to me, we got 1.2 million more votes in Ron DeSanctimonious than the state of Florida. And nobody ever says that. The press, the fake news, that's a lot of fake news back there. The only way they'll do it is if I say it. You might as well say it yourself, because they're never going to say it. Next November, we're going to win the White House. It's going to be one of the greatest.
Yeah! We love you!
And making America safe again. Under my leadership, the world was peaceful and calm because America was respected. The president was respected. I dealt with the strongest people in the world. They were smart, they were streetwise, they respected me, I respected them. They had different viewpoints, and certainly true, but they were afraid of America. They laugh at our country, they laugh. With crooked Joe Biden, you have chaos, bloodshed, war, terror, and death. Look what's happening today. Because the occupant of the White House is a laughing stock. All over the world, America's enemies cannot believe how lucky they got. They got real lucky. Every monster, villain, dictator, and terrorist, and there are plenty of them. I know most of them. I got to know a lot of them. All over the planet, they're having a field day because they know they will never have it better than they do with Crooked Joe, who in many cases receive money from those countries. I wonder what that's all about. Do you remember during the debate with Chris Wallace, how's he doing? He's not doing too well.
Oh!
I said, I want to ask him a question. How come he received $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? He got $3.5 million, and he's going, but Chris Wallace saved him. You shouldn't ask that question. That has nothing to do with anything. Well, about 2 months ago, it became the biggest subject. They're trying to figure it out now. And I will tell you that J.B. Comer and Jim Jordan and the group, they're doing a very good job. They found out strongest president this country has had to the weakest president.
Yeah! Woo! Come on. Yeah!
What iPhone is that? That's a good camera. 14.
You remember during the debate, I don't call her Crooked Hillary anymore, I use that now. I never like to use the same thing, so I took it off from Hillary. That was one of the best days of my life, I understand this right now. You now call her Beautiful Hillary, she's a beautiful woman. And we used a crooked word for Joe, like a crooked Joe. We took Sleepy off because I think he's sleepy.
Lock 'em both up!
But he's more crooked than he is sleepy. Right, Hillary Clinton said that she accused me during the debate. With his personality, he's going to start a war. And yet it turned out to be just the opposite. With my personality, there were no wars. For the first time in 70 years, and on top of everything else, we beat 100% of the ISIS caliphate. Just remember how much safer the world was under the Trump administration. After so many years of beheadings, bedlam, slaughter in the Middle East, we completely obliterated the ISIS territorial caliphate, and we did it in a matter of weeks. We did it very quickly. You know, we have a great military. They're trying to turn it woke. It's not going to happen. But we have a great... I'm not talking about the television generals who don't know what they're doing. I'm talking about the real generals of our military. We wiped them out. We wiped them out. Everyone said it was going to take 3 years. I said, really? I don't think so. I flew to Iraq and I met the generals that were in charge and I put in charge. And they said, sir, I think we can do it in about 4 weeks. I said, really? Everyone else is saying 3 years and maybe we can't do it. Sir, we'll have time left over, 4 weeks, sir. And they did it, they knocked the hell out of it. We killed the founder of the ISIS, biggest of them all, and then we terminated the world's top terrorist, the Iranian butcher, Soleimani. You remember that?
So long
He's the one that they call him the father of the roadside bomb. When you see a soldier walking around, a person walking around with no legs, no face, it's been absolutely... And look what happened now. I was also proud to be the best friend Israel has ever had in the White House. And if the election wasn't rigged, there would be nobody even thinking about going into Israel. The election was rigged, but we'll swamp them the next year than anybody. The eternal capital of Israel and opened the American embassy in Jerusalem. Got the building built. Slightly less than they thought. We had a location. We're going to pay a fortune for a proclamation in Jerusalem, not a good location. And I said, what do we have? We have a building in a great location, sir. We don't have to pay $100 million. And there's a stone all over Jerusalem. I asked our people, so can you give Jerusalem stone, and is it expensive? And they said, it's not expensive, it's Jerusalem. It's Jerusalem stone. And the whole damn building in Jerusalem stone. So we got it built, but I also recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. We're working on that for 58 years. 50 years. And we had to deal with it 1 week after the election. They were desperate. They wanted to make a deal. The U.S. gave Iran $6 billion as ransom money. You know that, right? 5 people. Good deal. This is the way we deal. They get 5 hostages. We get 5 hostages. I said, all right. Plus, they get $6 billion. That's not a good deal, is it? And it's used for exactly what you're watching right now on television and reading in the papers. Under my leadership, Iran was weak and broke and desperate for love. We can't put 2 sentences together. And he's the one that's leading our nation in talks. In fact, until just a little while ago, he was getting absolutely decimated. He never even mentioned the word Iran in any of his talks. Didn't want to talk about it.
Sleepy
But
Joe!
nobody under me was allowed to buy oil They were the biggest purchaser of oil in Iran. I said, if you buy oil, any oil from Iran, we're never doing business here. All the stuff that you take out of this country and rip us off, we're not going to do any more business with China. They stopped immediately. No more oil. I said it to India. I said it to many different countries. And they went way down, way down. And they had no money. And they wanted to talk. And they wouldn't have done anything. Just like Russia wouldn't have done anything for two reasons. I said, oh, you're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. I got along with him very good. You know, I actually got along with the tough guys the best. The weak people I didn't get along with. Weird. But I got along with him very well, actually. But I said, you can't do it, Vladimir. You can't do it. He was the apple of his eye, but he never did, and he wouldn't have done it. I said, don't do it. But you know what happened when oil went to $100 a barrel? And by the way, it's right there right now. Yeah. Think of it. Biden wants to stop the war with Ukraine, and yet he's created a mess for oil that's so much that Russia will be the first country to ever make a fortune. Because once it gets above $60 to $70 a barrel, we're hitting 100 now. And we're going to probably hit $115 a barrel. He still wouldn't have done it. Even if that happened, it would never have happened with us. We were at $40 a barrel. We had, think of it, we had $1.87 a gallon for gasoline. Today we're $5.67.
Woo!
But then we had that horrible election, that rigged election where they used COVID to cheat and crooked Joe Biden allowed Iran to flourish. They flourish. They absolutely flourish so beautifully. Tens of millions of barrels a month were instantly being sold, with China being by far their biggest customer. They didn't have to worry about Trump anymore. They know what happened in the election. They probably helped the election along. Although I got along very well with President Xi until COVID, that was a step too far. They went from losing money to making $100 billion a year in an instant. That's bigger than the $6 billion, but the $6 billion was so obvious. How stupid are they? They became rich and powerful, and then there were the trade of the hostages. I said 5 for 5, but we also agreed to give them $6 billion, which set a terrible precedent, and which they said will only be used for medical and other reasons, our people. And then the leader of Iran said, no, we'll use this money for any damn thing we want. And the Biden administration didn't want to respond to that. Now, a terrible precedent was set. You know, when you start paying for hostages, I got back 58 hostages, including from North Korea, which is tough. We never had to pay it down. We got to pay. We got to pay for hostages. The precedent is set. And now we paid $6 billion for 5 hostages. Remember what they say, the #1 phrase out there, and again, I mean, you can look at it, the fake news looks at it, oh, they're trying to prove me wrong so much. Trump was right about everything. They even have a hat that says Trump was right about everything.
Yes! Trump was right! Trump is right!
We're closer to World War III than anyone can understand. There's never been a time where we've been closer. We're inches away, and we have a man that literally can't speak. He can't get off the stage. The other day he tried to get off the stage. And look, I'm up here now. There are a lot of people. There's a lot of television going on.
We love you!
So I'm up here.
Stand up.
When I finish, I'm going to look over there. I'm going to see it. I can take that. What I can't do is walk through the back wall. Thank you. You know, after about 20 minutes, the stuff that he's taking wears off, so I guess we're... It's a little bit grabby. They say, get him off the stage, that shit's wearing off. No. And I'm sure that the cocaine that they found in the White House, that nobody...
Yeah.
I feel certain it had nothing to do with Hunter and Joe. I'd have a little of this stuff, it's going to liven you up a little bit. Can you imagine they found a stash and you wouldn't believe it? Nobody laid claim to it. That was forgotten, just like the laptop from hell was left in the office. He didn't want to pick it up. Wouldn't it have been great if he went to that shop and he said, I'd like my laptop, please. different world, but they have every single crime listed. You know, the father said, son, Hunter, I love you very much. What's on the laptop? Is there anything bad? What's on? Dad, I hate to say this, every single crime that we've committed is I don't have that with this guy right here. The $6 billion was a tremendous amount of money, but nothing compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars that Biden allowed them to make in oil and other things. Hundreds of billions. They became a rich nation in 3 years. That's why they're doing this. They have so much money, they don't know what to do with it. They had no money. They were broke. And then there was the inevitable attack 4 days later, which I predicted. And then 2 nights ago, I read all of my security people. Can you imagine? National defense people. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north. Because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, man, you know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like what they say. You know, I said that President Xi of China, 1.4 billion people, he controls them with an iron fist. I said, he's a very smart man. They killed me the next day. I said he was smart. What am I going to say? But Hezbollah, they're very smart. And they have a national defense minister or somebody saying, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack us from the north. So the following morning they attacked. They might not have been doing it, but if you listen to this jerk, he would attack from the north because he said that's our weak spot. Whoever heard of officials saying on television that they hope the enemy doesn't attack in a certain area? Now, unless it's a gun job. But you know what a gun job is? You're waiting there ready. You want them if you want them, but they weren't ready. They weren't ready. You know, so when you weren't, Israel was not ready. This was a big surprise. This was a terrible thing that happened. They weren't ready. But if you wanted them to attack because you've got 1 million people there with guns and you're going to blast the hell, then you do exactly, but they didn't have that. They didn't have that. Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, even bragged just days before the attack that the Middle East seems to be quite quiet. They really, honestly, what they've done, it's a shame. You look at the world, with all of the problems in this world, we had a country, we had no inflation, we had no Russia and Ukraine, we had no Israel problems, we had the strongest economy in history. We got you the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country. Think of it, the biggest regulation cuts. We had most people in the world. We had something that nobody else had ever done. We had one of the most successful presidencies in history. We rebuilt our entire military. We didn't have Afghanistan. I was taking them out. We would be taking them out with dignity and with pride and tremendous success. Instead, it was the worst, probably the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. The press doesn't talk about it. The media doesn't talk about it. But we talk about it. Most embarrassing day in the history of our country. Crooked Joe must take back and freeze the $6 billion right now. Take it back and freeze it, Joe. Freeze it, Joe! Freeze that money, Joe. They just know what the hell money I'm talking about. Freeze it, Joe. You know, it's not too late because it doesn't. It's going to transfer. That takes a little while. You can freeze the damn money. What they did is unacceptable. In addition, Biden must immediately halt all funding to corrupt Palestinian entities that support the Israeli terrorists. Which, if you remember, I started it because we were paying them about $750 million a year to the Palestinians. And they were really nasty. They were saying that death to America, death to America! And I heard about this. I said, oh, yes, I paid them money. Yes, sir, we have for many years, sir. How much? About $750 million to the Palestinians. That's a lot. And I said, if they say anything again, we immediately stop it. Within about 2 weeks, they happen to say something. Death! We want death! We want death! And so I stopped the money, and we would have had a deal with them too, because I stopped the money and I said, until we have a deal, I'm not going to say I wouldn't be able to say that settlement. Remember when I did that? Every president promised they would put the embassy in Jerusalem. Every single thing. Decades and decades. Clinton said it. Bush said it, everybody said it. Nobody did it but me. Nobody did it but me. Because, you know, I was called, once they heard me, I was called by every leader in the world practically. Please don't do it, sir. Especially in a certain part of the world. Please don't do it. They said, please, sir, do not do it. So what happened is I went out and I got a lot of calls from heads of state, from kings, from presidents, from prime ministers, because they heard I was going to do it. So I said, I don't like telling people now. Tell them I'll call them back on Monday. And they called up the head of, I don't want to use any names, the head of a big, powerful country is called and said, wants to talk to you about that deal, about the embassy going to Jerusalem. Because, you know, I could see why the other presidents didn't do it, because it was tremendous pressure. I said, tell them I'll call them back. This was on a Thursday. I'll call them back on Monday sometime in the afternoon. And about 15 people I had to call back. And on Monday morning I put back, hi, what's going on? Hey, how you feeling? Everything good? And I told you about this, but it's too late, sir. You've already done it. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Otherwise it would have been very tough. And you know what? There was no problem with it. Everybody said, oh, it's going to be a disaster. No problem with it. But I kept my word. I said I was going to do it, and I got it done, Larry. Right? So we got it done. When I'm back to the White House, we cut off every penny of Palestinian terrorists. They don't even cut it off. They don't cut the money. They keep paying. It's like with the World Health Organization.
The World Health Organization.
We paid $500 million a year. That's peanuts compared to some of the numbers, the stupid numbers that you say. I saw so many stupid things. I said, who makes these things? So the World Health, WHO, with COVID, with all the problems, they were way late. So we paid $500 million a year. Let's say we have 350 million people. We have no idea how many people we have because they're pouring in and a lot of changes every hour. Millions and millions of people are pouring in. But let's say we have 350 million, probably a correct number. They say 325, but probably they have no idea who's here. And bad ones are coming in. China has 1.4 billion people. So China pays 30 million a year. We pay almost 500 million a year.
Whoa.
And I said, what the hell is that all about? So I got out, and I got a call from the head of the World Health Organization, the doctor. Sir, we want you back very badly. It sets a horrible precedent when you get out. I said, number one, we pay too much. Why are we paying 500 million and China's paying 30? Well, sir, what do we do? I said, how much? They said, we'll take 250 million off. I said, that was quick. It's just like a phone call. I said, no, I don't want to do it. How about we'll take it down to 100 million? I said, wow. Except I got such support from people like you, not from all people, but from people like you that are smart and practical. And then I said, would you make it so we pay the same 30 million that China pays? Yes, sir, we'll do that. And then I left it anyway, despite that, because we saw that.
Yeah!
And the other day, everybody knew, the other day I read where they went back into the World Health Organization for the same prices they were always paying, 500 million. Now, they read the papers. They could have seen we could have come in there for peanuts. And you know what? That money, as much as it is, 500 million, it's nothing compared to the billions and trillions of dollars that we waste. But it's emblematic of stupid people. Very stupid people. It's emblematic. They could have done it for 30, they went back, I guess, for 450, whatever the maximum amount that we were paying. Under my leadership, the United States will fully support Israel, defeating, dismantling, and permanently destroying the terrorist group Hamas.
We need you back to the White House.
Trying to get their attention, turn up the mic.
We love you.
Then I don't unbelievable as that rotten, lousy mug. The state of it, but it's not my deal. It's not my deal. I have a good mug.
We love you!
You don't have a good mug. It's very difficult. You walk out for 2 weeks, you're talking, you say, what the hell happened to his voice? The state of Israel is a blessing to the world. Our prayers are with them now in this terrible, terrible time. Ziggy, that's good. Ziggy, you're amazing. One of the greatest people in the world, Ziggy. She's got more literacy crime. We love her. You got the greatest woman, the greatest wife. Under my leadership, we will stand with Israel 100%.
Wow.
Don't forget, I did have a bad experience with Israel. When we took out Soleimani, it was us in Israel working as a group. And we knew where he was, we knew how he was coming in, we knew the plane, we knew everything. We worked on it for weeks, for months actually. We worked on it for weeks. The night before, no, I don't think this has ever been told. They'll say, oh, it's classified information. The night before this happened, and by the way, Biden's got a lot of problem with those documents. He's moving them to Chinatown, he's moving them all over. And I come under the Presidential Records Act. He doesn't. He doesn't, because he was vice president and he was a senator. As a senator, you're not allowed to do it. As a president, I am, because I come under the president. I can do whatever I want. I did nothing wrong. And then they go after me, but they don't go after the person. But with all of the different things that happened, we took abuse like nobody, and we had to do this because we heard Soleimani was going to be blowing up 5 of our really big military bases in areas all over the Middle East. He was going to be blowing them up. He was a very bad guy, very smart guy, very bad guy. He was the leader of their military for a long time. In fact, the Ayatollah, they were all afraid of him. I actually think they were happy when this happened, okay? I think they were happy. I remember the Prime Minister of Pakistan said to me it was the biggest event in the history of the Middle East. This is big stuff. This was a big event. He said, I left my office calm, very good man. He left his office. He said, I went home. This was the biggest event in my life. And he was a great cricket player. He was like the Willie Mays, the Mickey Mantle, the Babe Ruth of cricket. He was a great cricket player. He became a handsome guy, great guy. He became the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He said, when I heard that he was dead, this was the biggest event I've ever seen, I've ever been involved in. And I left my office and I went home for 1 week and I contemplated. He said, I've never seen anything like it. It was big stuff. This was much bigger than anybody, but we had to do it. He was going to blow up our installations all over, kill many people, many people, and wounded people beyond recognition. And Israel was going to do this with us, and it was being planned and working on it for months, and now we had everything all set to go. And the night before it happened, I got a call that Israel will not be participating in this attack. Nobody's heard this story before, but I like to tell it to Club 47 because you've been so loyal. And I said, what does this mean? We're working on it everything. Why? They didn't tell us why, sir, but they're not doing it. This was the day before. I said, I don't like that. That's not good. I looked at one of my generals who was fantastic, a warrior. I'm telling you, we have an unbelievable military, unbelievable warriors. Just not the guys you see on television. They're real stiffs, real dopes. And these guys are warriors. They don't want to be on television. They want to win fights. Okay? They want to win fights. And I said to him, General, what do you want to do? Sir, we can do whatever you'd like to do, sir. We can finish it ourselves, sir, if you'd like. I said, well, do we need them? Not at all, sir. I said, so what do you want to do, General? Sir, we have it under control. We want to do it. If you don't want to do it, we understand. Whatever you say, sir, is okay with us. He said, let's do it. Let's do it. Including many of his own people, just blew them to pieces by the tens of thousands. Let's do it. And he came out on the plane, and We followed right from the situation, and we followed the whole thing. About 15 seconds later, it was all over. And we did it. But I'll never forget. I'll never forget that Binhvo-Ngoctrang let us know. That was a very terrible thing, I will say that. And so when I see sometimes the intelligence, you talk about the intelligence, or you talk about some of the things that went wrong over the last week, they've got to straighten it out because they're fighting potentially a very big force. They're fighting potentially Iran. And when they have people saying the wrong things, everything they say is being digested by these people because they're vicious and they're smart. And boy, are they vicious, because nobody's ever seen the kind of sight that we've seen. Nobody's ever seen it. But they cannot play games. So we were disappointed by that, very disappointed, but we did the job ourselves, and it was absolute precision, magnificent, beautiful job. And then Bibi tried to take credit for it. That didn't make me feel too good, but that's all right. So they got to strengthen themselves up because they're fighting a big force. And, you know, Iran's got close to a 3 million person army, military. That's big stuff. You know, that's no longer the minor leagues. We had them so in check. They wouldn't do a thing against us. They wouldn't do a thing. They wanted to make a deal so badly. If that election wasn't rigged, we would have had that thing done so fast, and you wouldn't have any of these problems. But you would have never, ever had anybody attacking Israel if I were president. It wouldn't have happened. When you look at that, hundreds of Israeli soldiers are dead, hundreds of people in their homes that were attacked. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Nobody thought it was possible. And so they're going to have to step up their game, and the United States is going to have to step up its game because we're really led by the wrong people. We're led by people that don't know what's happening. They don't know how to lead, and they're not respected, and it's a very hard thing. But it could ultimately lead to World War III. A man who's incapable, a man who's got virtually no brain, a man who shouldn't be in that position could very well lead us into World War III, and this is weaponry the likes of which nobody in this room can even imagine. Weaponry that's so powerful that it's the obliteration of the world. It could be the obliteration of the world. And we need our best, and we need our brightest, we need our smartest. And we have, I think, absolutely the absolute worst. You know, Joe, if you go back 30 years, was considered a dummy. He was considered a dummy. He was considered a dummy. And Ted Kennedy, believe it or not, was a friend of mine. I met him through Palm Beach. They had a big house, a compound. They called it the Kennedy compound. And I had a very nice house also. But I got to know him very well, and he liked me. And at one time I asked him, who's the smartest guy in the U.S. Senate? He was a smart guy, by the way. Ted Kennedy, very smart, great politician. And I said, who's the smartest guy in the Senate? We were friends. I did him a big favor, I will tell you that. Big, big favor, really big. And it wasn't hard for me to do, but it was very big and important for him. And he liked me, and I liked him. I said, who's the smartest in the Senate? And he gave me a name, but I won't tell you because I can't stand the guy. I can't stand him. I was disappointed to hear that name. I said, who's the dumbest in the Senate? He goes, I don't know, let's see. Probably Joe. I said, who's Joe? He said, Joe Biden.
Sleepy Joe!
25, 30 years ago, a long time. It was one of the early times I've ever heard of the name. And that was in prime time for him, but this is in prime time. Joe gave us the war on Israel and the war on American energy. What he did to our energy was we were energy independent. Think of it as president, I will shut off Iranian oil and I will turn on American oil. And we will America.
Woo!
He's breathing.
Process of building a state-of-the-art missile defense shield in America. We need a missile defense shield.
Yeah.
With our technology, money that we look at, Israel wouldn't even exist if they didn't have that. It's amazing how incredible they are, Dance Camino. Don't you think? Dance Camino, ladies and gentlemen, the most powerful man in the world.
What the fuck?
Most powerful man!
Woo!
Drano, and you, the lips. What a group of geniuses they are. I go and say, sir, we want $1 million for that campaign or more. And then show me a campaign that's so bad. These guys, I'll tell you, look at my man there. Stand up. Most powerful man. Come here, stand up. Not you, Bruce. I'll tell you, they come up with things, DC. They come up with things that are just absolutely incredible. Nobody can do it. I put a lot of them out. I put them out on Truth. I hope everybody saw Truth. Truth is really where it's a situation. That's incredible, actually. But we put things up that these people do. I don't know, they do it in their bed, they write, draw it. The stuff they do, Gina is so incredible, it's so brilliant, it's so genius, and Dan coordinates things. It's been amazing. We've had a lot of fun together, Dan, but he's the most powerful guy. I say that because I want to keep his fees down a little bit. You've done a great job, Dan. Thank you very much, and you've kept it very interesting. The recent terror attacks are also a reminder of the deadly dangers that we face from Joe Biden's demolition of our own borders here on American soil. Can you imagine what's happening with these people pouring in? Under Biden, the same people that attacked Israel, killing, raping, torturing, and maiming innocent civilians, are right now pouring into our once beautiful USA. I have to say that, once beautiful, because what's happened to our country in 3 years is not even to be believed. Yeah. But they're pouring in through totally open southern borders, and they're coming in at numbers that are not being reported by the fake news correctly. They're coming in many, many millions, close to 15 million in my opinion. They're flooding in from Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Somalia, Iraq, Iran, unscreened, unvetted, and totally uncontrolled. And many of them are young men, young, strong men. They're not a lot of women. They're not bringing women. They're men. I said, look at all the men. What's going on here? And I look at what's happening in Israel, and I say, are they looking to do the same thing over here?
Yes, they already are.
They're also coming in
They
from
will.
China. Vast numbers of people, men coming in from China. We will be paying the price for years to come if we don't get them out immediately under my administration.
Yes, sir.
The largest deportation movement in history.
ICE!
Jihadists, extremists, and radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country.
Yes.
If we don't win, this country is going to be
Fucked.
fire hell. It's going to be in big trouble. We had no problems there for 4 years. I would never talk about it during the term. I'd say, we went 3 years, we have no problem. The last thing I want to do is say, oh, we were 3 years, and then something horrible happens, a World Trade Center tragedy or something. We had no problems. We were tough, and we kept them out. We don't want our people killed. We don't want our shopping centers blown up. We don't want the problems that some people bring. You take a look at what's happening in other countries. When we get back in, I will immediately reimpose the Trump travel ban.
Yes.
On entry from terrorists.
Vote Trump.
I took a lot of heat over that one. That's not nice. Yeah, that's not nice. Well, blowing up our shopping centers isn't nice either. Upon my inauguration, we will quickly seal the border and terminate every open borders policy. But that includes getting all of the illegal aliens from countries that hate us, that hate our values, and sending them back to the places from which they come.
Send them out. Send them home.
Instead of keeping terrorists out of America, the Biden administration is inviting them in. You know why? because he's got a boss. Who's his boss? Barack Hussein.
Yes! Woo! Ooh!
Hussein. Hussein.
Yes!
Unbelievably, the corrupt Biden Department of Justice recently invited an Iranian-backed judge from Iraq to visit our nation's capital. Isn't that nice? Couldn't have been too impressed with our capital. It looks like shit.
Oh my God! Vote Trump! Let go! Vote Trump! Vote Trump! Vote Trump! Vote Trump!
Brand new limestone where the limestone's been destroyed. We're going to make that capital the most beautiful capital again in the world. Even though I'm being tried for something, I haven't figured that one out. I know they're trying to investigate. As I said, something about the election, I think. They want to say that, well, first of all, that's an easy one to win because it was the most corrupt election. We have such proof of it. And the jury comes from Washington, D.C. And I want to do a federal takeover of Washington, D.C. to stop the crime and to make it great again, to make it magnificent again. We used to do it in real estate very well, and this is just a large real estate deal. We want to make it gorgeous again. You look and you have graffiti on those beautiful marble columns, and you have tents all over the place. You have tents. The homeless, we got to take care of the homeless, but they can't do it there. They can't be in our beautiful parks. They can't be resting at the base of the Washington Monument and making it so that nobody wants to go there. And nobody wants to go there anymore. They're very unsafe. This shit, they're killing people every night. You're reading the other night, 3 people shot. Just shot. Nobody wants that. We're going to take over the capital, Washington, D.C. I've been saying this for a year and a half, and we're going to get rid of all the crime. There will be no crime there. There will be no anything.
Yes, sir. Woo!
By people that think of it. I don't like this guy. This guy wants to take away the capital. No, I want to make our capital great again. We're going to make it beautiful again. The Biden Department of Justice recently invited this Iranian-backed judge from Iraq to visit our nation's capital. After that, the foreign judge issued a warrant for my arrest for blowing up the #1 terrorist in the world, Salamani. So he came in. He was invited by this incompetent president, please come in, and he ended up issuing an arrest for they want to arrest me because I killed the #1 terrorist in the world. What I do for you people, you have no idea. You think it's easy when I call up my great First Lady and I say, First Lady, darling, how are you? Listen, I'm going to be indicted today at 5 o'clock. And she looks at me, she says, again? How many times? So I call up this great young man right over here and his wife, and I say, Laura, Eric, get a little bad news. We want this again. For the 4th time in about 2 minutes. You know, Alphonse Capone, did anybody ever hear of Al Capone? The greatest of all time. The greatest gangster of all time. If you looked at him wrong, he'd kill you. And he killed you with his hands. He was a tough guy. He got indicted 1 time. I got indicted 4 times. As you know, crooked Joe Biden and his radical left thugs have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent, me. Not only leading, I'm beating him by 12 points. Wasn't that great? ABC Washington Post comes out with a poll. They pay like millions of dollars. And it shows Trump's up by 11. Now, normally you put it, Trump's up by 11. Okay, not the worst thing, right? It's good stuff. We're all happy. They said, Trump's up by... We disavow the poll. We disavow it. They said, ladies and gentlemen, why don't they just not issue it? They spend so much money on it, but we're up by 11, and they say, we disavow this poll. This poll is not correct. It can't be correct. Oh my gosh, please don't make it correct. You know why? Because we want to put these people out of business. These are corrupt people. They're horrible people, and they know. We're not playing any games. We got rid of Comey. We got rid of a lot of bad people. We got rid of a different China. This is high-level election interference. This is all about election interference. I'm up by 11 points. I'm up by 67 points with the sanctimonious, but they don't care about that one. But they want to damage the person that they're running against. Because if they can damage him, even a guy like Crooked Joe Biden can win. They cheated the last time. This is a new form of cheating. This is like a banana republic. Banana republics cheat. And third world countries cheat like this. They do that a lot. Election interference. They try and smidge. They try and do things. Now, and I will tell you this a fact. I am the only politician in the history of the world that got indicted, and my numbers went up 25%.
Yeah! Woo! Woo!
How bad is it? I get indicted, I call them the next one. How bad is it? They tell me. How bad? They say, sir, you're up 25. I say, usually when that happens, like within 3 minutes of getting this subpoena and their indictment, they go to the, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going back to my family where I will fight for the rest of my life to clear my name down with that, you know I'm innocent. And that's the nice thing. These things are made up. I call them Biden indictments. They're not indictments, they're Biden indictments. These are crooked people. I did that mugshot for Atlanta, and they also control the local AGs and they control the DAs. I did the mugshot in Atlanta. I don't think I've ever made so much money in my life.
Go loud? Okay. See you next time.
You know, you're better off.
But that would be
Not like this is
okay
your
that
first
somebody in Democrat running is hot. Doing great.
Oh, that's good.
When I say indicted, for what? You can indict anyone. Indict him. He walked across the street wall. He went through a red light, indict that guy. And he gets indicted, and now he's officially out of the race. It's a disgrace. What they're doing is unthinkable. It was never supposed to happen. And in fact, almost everyone said nothing like this could ever happen. I heard they looked into war, and the Department of Justice said, no way! Don't do it. Don't do it. Because every time we go up 5, 6, 7. But it's a terrible thing that they're able to weaponize the Justice Department, the Attorney General, the FBI. It's a terrible thing, and I'm pleased to report that the latest poll in Florida, we're crushing them by numbers that you wouldn't even believe. So much that we can't really give you a number. That's right, that's a lot. But while DeSantis has been flying around the country setting fire to his reputation and destroying the reputation, frankly, of Florida, all he's doing is campaigning. You know, when Chris Christie did that, they threw him out of New Jersey. Chris Christie is another beauty. Trumprally2024. He's got a major case of, what are you going to do for the country? I don't want Donald Trump. I don't. You know, I never gave him a job. That's right. He's got Trump arrangement syndrome at a level. He could be worse than Biden. But Florida's in the midst of an insurance crisis.
Yeah. Yes. Ron left us to dry.
Wasting his time. Because you know what? When you're at a level of 9, 8, now you're in 3rd place and 4th place, and in one case he's in 5th place in one particular place. He's in 5th place. You got to be back here fixing the insurance because the insurance is a real problem in Florida.
Right. Yes.
Sky high rates, seniors are getting squeezed, and families and businesses are being forced to leave the state. They're leaving. Insurance costs have more than doubled under Ron DeSantis while he's raised millions and millions of dollars from insurance companies. So he gets money from the insurance companies that he's supposed to be watching so he can run for president and make a fool out of himself because he's got no talent. He's got no skill. You know, one thing about running, you can get a little bit of insanity. And he's got no But it's a failing campaign for all of them. They ought to stop, have another debate. They're doing one more debate. We let them have the debate. Nobody's going to watch it. And then they ought to get together and we've got to beat Joe Biden and these people. And it's time for a lot of cyclists to hang it up. You know, it's very interesting. Branding is a beautiful thing, proper branding. And the other day he was being interviewed by, I think, NBC first grade interview. And the announcer goes, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to have Governor Ron DeSantis with us. My name's DeSantis. They didn't know that. My name's DeSantis. They called him Ron DeSantis. I said, am I a good brand? It's pretty crazy. We get back here, we have to take care of the people of Florida and their insurance and other problems who are really being neglected. You have a governor that's never in the state. He's up in Iowa, he's at all sorts, he's in New Hampshire,
Getting his ass kicked.
where he's not even registered. I mean, he doesn't even register in the polls. Instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars attacking me in the MAGA movement, all of the money DeSantis is wasting should instead be used to defeat crooked Joe Biden next November. Let him take a shot at 28. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. The radical left Democrats rigged the president. And that's what happened. They rigged the presidential election of 2020. And we are not going to allow them to rig the presidential election. Thanks very much. I'm being indicted for you. I wonder what my father looking down from heaven says. I wonder what he says looking down from heaven. My son just got indicted 4 times. But he was smart. He'd get it faster than anybody. In New York State, the radical left, liberal Democrat judge made a statement this morning. I have another trial going. This is a civil trial, which we did absolutely nothing wrong except build a great company, much greater than the statement said, which is interesting. They had no case. But he said, Trump doesn't get a jury, whether he wants it or not. They have a lot of fun with me. He doesn't get a jury. Think of it. I'm the only guy getting a trial without a jury. It's the first time they've ever used this statute. You're not entitled to a jury. That sounds fair. It would not have helped to make a motion, he said. It doesn't help to make a motion, and there is no box checking. You know, normally you check if you want a box, you want a jury. But there is none. But he said that Trump does not get a jury. There is no box checking. And I have a trial going on, and I don't get a jury. Because if I had a jury, I'd win the case very easily. I think even though it's considered a pretty liberal area, I think I'd win the case very. It's a very simple case. I did absolutely nothing wrong. It's a political witch hunt. And the crooked Attorney General of New York, she's a real beauty. Letitia James.
Vote fool!
Peekaboo James. No, they used a statute that's never been used before. And the statute is so horrible. It's actually meant for totally different things and never used. And under the statute, you don't get a jury trial. Can you imagine? So I'll have a politician, Democrat, who's a judge. That's what I don't. But I don't think I probably will after the trial is over. But can you imagine that? You don't get a jury. This is communist Russia. This is a communist China. Nobody's ever heard of a thing like this. We don't get a jury. It's unthinkable. But they use this one little statute hidden away. Where I don't get a jury, I don't get anything. But the good news is we have such a strong case that maybe the judge will be swayed. Otherwise, I really do believe they'll overturn it. And we won a lot of appeals on that case, and it's really interesting. But I have to go through this stuff. And let me tell you, if I weren't running, or if I was in 5th place, or 6th place, or 4th place, none of this would be happening. I wouldn't have been indicted 4 times or 1 time, and I wouldn't be sued all over the place for anything. Anything we can do, let's sue them. If I weren't running, or if I was doing poorly, I would have absolutely no litigation. But when you're beating the so-called, I say so-called President of the United States, when you're beating him by so much, and when you're beating all of these Republicans, they're angry too. When they do things that but you have governors, senators, you have all these people running, and but if I wasn't, instead I sit in courtrooms and campaign, but I still love it because we're doing something. We're saving our country. It's always been. How do you take it? How do I take what? How do you take it? They indict you every time you go on television. They indict you. They indict you for nothing. I mean, you see these indictments. Many of them are just, I mean, the illegal scholars like Greg Jarrett, who's so fantastic, so many others. They've been writing these incredible things. There's no case. There's literally no case. They say there's no case. Even if he was guilty, there's no case. And these charges with this Fanny, whatever her name is, in Atlanta, where they wanted to take down senators, they wanted to take down Rudy Giuliani, the greatest mayor in the history of the world. Because you know, it works two ways. The Republicans can do that too. It's a very dangerous thing to do. Nobody thought it would be possible, but never forget our enemies want to stop us because we are the only ones who can truly stop them. That's what it is. They know we can stop them. We're going to stop them. If we don't win this election, I think it's finished. Remember, I used to say all the time, we will not become a socialist country. We will never become a socialist country. And I was right. We skipped socialism. We went down to communism. We never became a socialist country. At least I was right about that. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. Is what you say. But in the end, they're not after me, they're after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way. It's my own interest. But think what our country would have been like if the election had not been rigged and stolen. Just think of this. Israel would not now be under attack, would never be under attack. They'd be flourishing, they'd be happy. All of those people that are dead, right now they had beautiful daughters and sons, fathers and mothers, babies. 44 babies had their heads cut off. Oh, babies, these are babies. They had their heads cut off today. But Israel would be flourishing, they would have no problem. And they would never have played that game. Ukraine would not be under attack by Russia. Zero chance. Zero chance. I told them that we won't do it. Bad things happen. No way. I don't want to say what I told them, but I said bad things, and I explained the bad things. He said, no way. I said, way. Way. And he didn't believe me, but he believed me 10%. And the fact is, they didn't do it. They never were going to do it while I was there. 4 years, a long time. They were never going to do it. We would have no hostile relationship with North Korea. We had a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. I remember when I met with Obama, which is mandatory when you take office, 2 presidents, a lovely meeting. I said, what's your biggest problem? He said, North Korea, there's nothing you can do to stop. I said, have you called him? Have you tried to talk to him? No. He said, maybe you should give it a chance before we end up in nuclear war. But I talked to him, we became very friendly. I was a fan of his, he was a fan of mine, a fan in the sense of we got along. Okay, you know, I was a fan. We have headlines. Trump was a fan of Kim Jong-un. We got along. He was a good, tough. He's a very tough guy, smart guy. But he has a massive amount of nuclear weapons. But we got along. You would have had, if Hillary got in, we would have had nuclear war. We would have had nuclear war. We would have left Afghanistan with dignity and strength and power and pride. 1,000 trucks that we left. You know, if you had a used car, the biggest Florida, they have big ones. They have 400 cars in stock. We gave them 70,000 cars, trucks. Most of them had armor plates on it because millions and millions of dollars to go. We gave them 70,000. We gave them 700,000 guns and rifles. And they sell them. We gave them goggles, night goggles. You know, they're great fighters, actually. the Afghans, the Afghanistanis, great fighters. They're very good fighters. They fight for, 2,000 years they fight. I remember when I first came into the White House, they said, sir, it's going to be a rough spring. Well, they fight in the spring. That's what they do. They come out of the caves and they come out of the crevices of the mountains and they fall. They said, no kidding. Do they do anything else? Like, do they go out to a ball game or anything else? The fighters, that's what they are. But they never fought at night because they didn't have goggles. And we gave the best goggles in the world. Better than our people, right out of the box, brand new stuff, brand new. And I said to these guys, take every screw when we leave, we'll get ready to leave. I said, I want every bolt, I want every nut, I want every screw, I want those big hangers for the airplanes, I want them, I want every plane, I want every tank, I want every Jeep, I want everything. We're taking it all out with us. And I'll never forget Millie saying, sir, it would be cheaper to leave it. I said, let me ask you a question. When you said leave it, you mean we have a $150 million plane and we can fill it up with a tank of jet fuel and fly it to Pakistan or bring it back to our country? You think it's cheaper to leave it? It might be brand new. Yes, sir, we think it. And that was when I realized he was an idiot. Said to Biden, who was, couldn't stay awake. He said to Biden, sir, it'll be cheaper to leave all of our equipment. And they left all of their equipment. And $85 billion worth of equipment. The good news is I rebuilt the military, and that was actually a very small number compared to the numbers that we spent on rebuilding. We built new jets. We had fighter jets that were 48 years old. We would have the strongest border right now in history as we did just 3 years ago. 3 years ago we had the strongest border in history. Millions of prisoners right now, and people from jails all over the world are pouring in. They're coming in from the jails and prisons all over the world, and they're dumping them into our country. We have people coming in from mental institutions, from insane asylums. We have terrorists pouring into our country. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. There's never been a third world country that had to endure this, because no third world country would have allowed it. They would have fought them off with sticks and stones. They would have done whatever they had to do. This is the worst border in history. We had the best border in the history of our country. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. You go to New York, all over Madison Avenue, there are people sleeping on the sidewalk, sleeping all over Fifth Avenue. They have luxury shop owners closing their businesses. This is true in Chicago, this is true in Los Angeles, this is true in San Francisco. 10 years ago, San Francisco was one of the greatest cities in the world. Today, I don't know, it's very sad to see. And Nancy Pelosi is a big reason for it. She's got, by the way, she's got a little to her house. Didn't help her husband too much, but it helped.
Hammer time.
What was that all about, Nancy? Tell us. Nancy, give us the word. There's a bad woman, crazy. I call her Crazy Nancy. And she was responsible for security of the Capitol, just so you know. We offered 10,000 soldiers. She was responsible for the security of the Capitol, and she failed. We had the strongest economy in the world, the strongest economy we ever had. And we had it all 3 years ago. Think of it. There would be no inflation. Interest rates would be low. You'd be buying houses right now at great prices. Mortgage rates were set at an all-time. We were at 2.7%. Now you can't get a mortgage. 8, 9, 10, 12%. You can't get a mortgage. We were energy independent. We would right now be energy independent and energy dominant. We'd be selling our energy all over Europe. We would be making a fortune, reducing our debt, and reducing the taxes. The United States auto workers. If you look at the United Auto Workers and all auto workers throughout the United States, they're under siege with ridiculous electric vehicle mandates because all those cars are going to be made in China. Because that's where the materials are. And who wants to buy a car that can't go far and costs a lot of money? Can't go far. It doesn't go very far. In other words, you're in a different world right now. And it's getting worse. It's getting much worse. Much, much worse. We would be respected again if we were doing what we did so well. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate the support. We used to call this Club 45. These brilliant people that run us at certain time we call Club 47.
Yep. Woo!
funny that we get these massive crowds. I was telling her, nobody ever said I was a great speaker. We get these massive, you know, the rallies, we get 30, 40, 50, 60. Alabama, we had 68,000. Mo Brooks, he said,
Arizona.
and that was the end of him. But we had 68,000.
68,000 in Arizona.
4,000 people. Nobody ever says how great it is, but everybody knows. Nobody ever said, boy, he's a great speaker. That guy's really great. They don't say it. I mean, I think it's because I'm so good looking that people say that. But look at Joe Biden and his boss, Barack Hussein. Obama did this to us. They did this to us. They destroyed our country. But we've saved America from all of what's happening, not to this extent though. But we saved it before, and we'll save America once again, and we're going to save it. We're going to make it beacon.
Yes!
So here is some of what we're going to do as the 42nd President of the United States. And we're all doing this together. We're all doing this together. I totally will obliterate. We started it very strong. We got rid of a lot of bad ones in Washington, real bad ones. But, you know, they come back and all sorts of things with the fake Mueller report. By the way, no collusion at the end of 2.5 years with Russia. It was so interesting, you know, during the campaign. They started this earlier than my win, but we were doing well. And young staffers would come up, sir, it's so great to meet you, sir. And I said, nice to meet you. What's going on? Sir, do you have anything to do with Russia? I said, that's a strange question. No, hell do I know about Russia? We've got enough problems. And then 2 months later, another young man came up to me. Hello, sir, it's an honor, sir. Anything you are doing with Russia that maybe we should know about, sir? He said, no, I don't know what you mean. And this happened 4 or 5 times. After about the 5th time, I said, you know, there's something strange going on with Russia. And that was it. And then when she lost, they used that as an excuse for her loss because they were very embarrassed. You know, they say the biggest upset. I didn't think it was. I did a speech in Michigan. I had 38,000 people there the day before. And she did a speech and she had like almost nobody. She had like 100 people. You know, Russia, 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 Russia. They used that, the fake media used that as a way of justifying her defeat. They used it. And it was supposed to be a one-day story, but it turned out to last for 2.5 years, you know, because it caught on, unbelievably caught on. And then Mueller did the report, 18 angry Democrats, there were 6 angry Democrats. And I think I had an angel in the room because they came up and they said, I did nothing, but they would have written whatever they would have written. They were very dishonest people. Look at the J6 committee, think of it. I mean, take a look at the committee. If you look at this committee, they just put out a report. Think of it. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. And the report, they've just deleted all evidence. So if you're on trial, if anybody's on trial, you have no evidence whatsoever. These are political thugs. These are political thugs. These are bad people. And we'll see what happens because I think it's a disgrace. And what's happened to a lot of people, it shouldn't be allowed to happen. You could take a look at Portland. You take a look at Minneapolis, you take a look at Seattle, where they practically took over half of the city, big part of the city. People were killed, and nothing happens to them, but they went after some people, and it's been very unfair, two tiers of justice. So it's been a very interesting period, but we have to protect our people. We have to protect all of our people, and we have to protect everybody, both sides. But what's happened in this country is very sad. I will totally obliterate the deep state stuff, the weaponization of the corrupt FBI and DOJ. We're going to fix the DOJ. The DOJ is corrupt. The FBI is corrupt. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will shortly, right after we win, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Many people are telling me, you know, I did the town hall for CNN, and I feel so good that they fired the head of CNN. They got the highest ratings in 11 years, and they fired the head. They're supposed to be the opposite. They're supposed to say, congratulations, but they fired him. But we talked about all of these things at that town hall. It was actually Caitlin Collins, I think she blew into her Caitlin Collins, I think she ruined her career that night. That was not a great night for CNN, but they did get good ratings. That's the good news. But I'm able to say very strongly that I'm the only candidate who can make a promise that's a very important promise, the most important promise that we can have. I will prevent World War III. It's not going to happen. To stop the Marxist prosecutors and Islamists and others who are persecuting Republicans, conservatives, and people of faith, I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical DA. As we restore the border, I will also use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis. On day one, I will repeal Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle.
Yes.
Number one, I told you before that made all going to be made in China and other countries, not here. The United Auto Workers auto endorsed Trump very quickly. You know, for years and decades, they just automatically endorsed a Democrat. But we've lost 50% of our automaking over the number of decades. It goes to Mexico, it goes to China. Mexico, unbelievable. A lot of it goes to Canada. The USMCA has been unbelievable what we did with that, but a lot of it goes to Canada. What they've done is so bad, but now they want to do electric tax. So we have our big Sherman tax running, and they want to make them electric so they can be friendly, environmentally friendly, as we go and blast the hell out of the community, they want to blast out. It's done in an environmentally friendly way. Now the only problem is the tank can't go very far. It doesn't have the kind of power they need, but it can't go very far. So they're going to have to put charging stations all up and down. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They want to make electric tanks, and I said, no thanks. And the other problem is the battery. You know, the battery is so big that you'd have to have the tank towing the truck behind it because the battery. And then they want to change our trucks to all electric, and I know a lot about trucks now, about the industry, and I have a lot of friends in the industry, big ones, the biggest guys, the biggest, they have hundreds of these things, big ones. And one of them said, you know, I've been doing this for 60 years, and every year my truck gets bigger and better. I built this big, I get these big trucks that are incredible. Peterbilt, different manufacturers. And I buy a lot of them every year. He's a big, owns a lot. And one of the biggest, great guy. I won't use his name, I don't want to get him in trouble. A great guy, but well, they're all great guys, you know, do a great job. He said, every year my trucks get better, they're bigger, they're better, they're stronger, they go faster, they're just incredible. And if they do the electric mandate on trucks, we will go back 60 years. Because the truck that's top of the line, big, the big tanks with the diesel, can go approximately 2,000 miles. An electric truck can go approximately 300 miles. That's a slight difference. You're talking about supply chain problems, right? So you'll have to stop 6 or 7 times in order to do what another truck is doing. And they don't care about that. The other day I left South Carolina and I visited a big boat factory with a fantastic company. They make hundreds of boats a year. They make beautiful speedboats. And they said that the government now is starting to impose electric mandates on them. They want the boat to be all electric. The problem is the batteries are so heavy that the boat can't float. And they're so big that almost the entirety of the boat would have to be electric. And he said, you know, you asked me a question, sir, that nobody's ever asked me. We're talking about this. They want us to go 2 miles an hour up to 90 miles out. I said, how far does the boat go? About 60 miles. You mean 2 miles? So in other words, these are speedboats. They want them to go 2 miles an hour because they want to protect the whales. In 50 years, one whale was injured. But the windmills have driven hundreds of whales on the shore.
Yep.
So the windmills are okay, but the whales are not. But I spoke to him and said, he said he was very honored by this, because smart guy. I said, what happens if your boat sinks and you're sitting on top of this massive battery? Do you get electrocuted? He said, you know, nobody's ever asked me that question. I was like, you know, because he's been asked every question, Ziggy, he's been asked every question. He said, nobody's ever asked me that. But that's That's our uncle from MIT. We have an uncle, brilliant uncle from great professor from the longest term ever from MIT. That's where we get that. I said, so what happens? You get electrocuted with the boats going down and you're like floating off the back and you get electrocuted. So am I better off sitting on top of that battery and going down, or am I better off jumping about 10 yards over there, but there's a shark over there? And if I had my choice between a shark and electrocution, I will take electrocution. But they want to change boats to all electric, and they don't work. They don't work. And they don't want to hear it. You know, it's like they don't work. In California, they have brownouts and blackouts every single day, and yet they want to go all electric cars. So they want to have all electric cars, and yet they don't have enough electric to take care of the state, which is, by the way, if he ever runs, we'll have so much fun, because that is the worst road state. That's what we need to do. The place is getting killed. People are leaving. Beautiful place, though, I will say that. I don't know if he's going to run. And I'm going to be nice to him because he's always been very nice to me. But if we run, we're not going to be nice to him. Because we're going to have to see Joe Biden gets to the starting gate. I don't know if he's going to get to the starting gate. I don't know that he will. I think he might not. I hope he does, because I think it would be a wonderful thing for America to have a Republican president like me. Gasoline-fired engines will be allowed, but child sexual mutilation will not be allowed. We're not going to allow I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender, I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or I will keep men out of women's sports. Did you see the weightlifting record that was broken by 150 pounds? Did you see that the other day? Yeah, a young woman, she was a fantastic, powerful woman. And she held records, and she wanted to beat this record 18. And they took a quarter of an ounce, and they put it on one side. And they took a quarter of an ounce, and they put it on the other side of the barbell. And her parents were right sitting right where Lee is, right there, Lee. Lee is a big fan of Barack Hussein Obama. Be honest. But they're sitting right where Lee is, the great Lee. And they're so proud of their daughter. Look at her, she's so strong, she's so great. And she got down and she was gonna do it for mom, dad, and the whole country. And she gets it up. I have a problem. I have a wife who doesn't, she hates this routine. She said it's so unprecedented. But I said, darling, you're a great first lady, and people love us. She said, could you do it with less enthusiasm? I understand what she's saying. This is not very presidential when we just say the union addresses like that. I wouldn't do this routine at a State of the Union address. So I'll do it just quickly for you, okay? You know? So she gets down, she goes, and she's getting ready to make the last move. And she gets and then a guy who transitioned comes over. Have you lifted before? They ask. No, not really. But I'd love to give it a try. It takes the weight that she could lift. Boom. They had 10 pounds, they had another 10, they had another 10. They keep adding the damn weight. She couldn't do a quarter of an ounce on each side. And I believe he broke the record by approximately 150 pounds. I think that's pretty tough. It's going to be hard to beat that record. Do you agree with that, Gina? And then the worst of all was the great swimmer, great athlete, great champion. Brilliant swimmer. She's ready to start. She looks left, you know, because they're all like this very incredible crowd of people, like golfers, you know, they grow up at 6 years old and 7 years old and 8 years, they're all playing the same guys because it's the pyramid, right? And those are all the best players. They played from the time they're 6 years old. And she swam against all these people real well because she was a champion swimmer. She was swimming. She was over there. 6 girls, and she knew very well, all top girls. And then she looks over to the right, there's 6 girls and 1 very big girl. And he looked like Wilt Chamberlain on steroids. That's the biggest human being I've ever seen. And she wanted to break the record, and she was equipped to break the record. But what happened is she suffered a terrible, terrible injury. You know what the injury was? Windburn! He went by her so fast that she suffered massive windburn. The wind was so strong as he went by her. Then he went in, he had lunch for a little while, and then the girls finished, and that was the end of the record. Maybe 18 seconds or something like that. This is crazy. This is so demeaning to women. So, and a lot of the young women that are being affected don't want to talk about it. They're all afraid to talk, right? But just as I did 4 years ago, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment or Second Amendment. Yeah! Went to one-day voting with mail-in ballots. Very special paper, very good stuff. They had 36 million people voting at 10 o'clock. That was the end of it. 10 o'clock, you had a winner, you had a loser. Macron won, and that's it. I mean, people went home and they worried about the next election. There was no problems that we have where we have things that are so bad that went on and everybody knows it, and it's being adjudicated all over the place. But until we do that, Republicans must compete and we must win it. If we do that, we're going to get things changed so that we can have honest elections here. So in conclusion, this is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Israel is under attack. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control like just about never before. You know, inflation is what they call a country buster. If you look back at old-time Germany, you look back at some of the countries that suffered inflation, in some cases not as bad as ours, it breaks up the country. It's country buster time. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in 200 years. 200 years. That'll be a defeat like no other. That will be third world country for us. It won't happen with me, not even a chance. Just like Russia, we never had China's taking Taiwan very serious, and the whole thing with Israel, where their focus is now, they're probably looking at it even tougher. If you took the first, anything you want, 5 presidents, you take the worst 5 presidents, and I think I can really, I've been saying for a long time, if you took the worst 5 presidents and added them up, nobody would be as bad as Biden.
No.
I really make it 10. I can make it 10. You can take the 10 worst presidents in the history of our country, add them up, and nobody would be as bad as this crooked, horrible president that we have. And you know, followed me for a long time, heard me speak. We're really like a family, this group today. And go back, look back at the Republican, most of the Republicans, they always say, well, MAGA represents approximately 55%. No, it represents probably close to 100% of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
But we're a failing nation. We're a nation in decline. We're a nation that's doing so badly. We've never had anything like this. There's one thing after the other. All of these wars. We had no wars. I got out of every war. We defeated ISIS. We got out. But now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. It's totally corrupt. And we're not going to let it happen. 2024 is our final battle. It's our final battle. It's also, frankly, both ways. It'll either be the worst day in history or it'll be the best day in history. So we're celebrating. If you look outside, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. They're fake.
Yeah.
Many of them, they know they're fake. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House and we will fully